You know, in football, we're always talking about talent, tactics, and training. But what if the single biggest factor in making a world-class player wasn't on the pitch at all, but on the map? We're going to dig into some fascinating research today that makes the case that for some countries, geography really is destiny. And that leads us to this big question: Canada. I mean, we're talking about a G7 nation, almost 40 million people, totally sports obsessed. So why has it always kind of struggled in men's football? Well, the answer might have less to do with the players themselves and a whole lot more to do with the sheer size of the country.
Okay, so the whole argument here is that football talent isn't just something you find scattered around randomly. It's forged. It gets incubated in these really specific, super concentrated environments. It's all about having the best competition a quick bus ride away, not a whole plane flight away.
And this is really the heart of the issue. Just look at the contrast. On one side, you've got Canada, the second biggest country on the planet, but its population is stretched out in this thin little line that's 6,000 kilometers long. And on the other side, you've got the traditional powerhouses. Think about Uruguay, or the Netherlands, or the big cities in Argentina and Spain. Places that are geographically tiny, but just packed with people. That difference, it's everything. So if density is the secret sauce, what does one of these ideal environments, these talent factories, actually look like? Well, to get that, we need to break down the blueprint that the best in the world use. The research calls it a football circuit. Right, so a football circuit is basically a pressure cooker for talent. Imagine this dense web of really good clubs all packed into one small area. The travel is minimal, which creates this super competitive bubble where players are constantly being tested against top rivals without their clubs going broke or them spending half their life on a bus. And when you see it in practice, the difference is just wild. Look at this. The metro area of Buenos Aires has more than 30 professional clubs. 30. Madrid has 6. And Toronto, it has 1. The sheer amount of high-level competition, it's just on a completely different planet. And here's the proof in the pudding. A 2020 study found that Buenos Aires and Madrid are ranked #1 and #2 in the entire world for producing pro players who go on to play abroad. So these circuits aren't just for winning local trophies. They're basically industrial-scale talent exporting machines. The model just flat out works. So it all comes down to this simple formula. You need a high population density to get the raw numbers of potential players. Then you need an extreme density of clubs to give them all a place to play and compete. And finally, you need minimal travel friction so that all that talent is constantly clashing and getting better. You get those 3 things right? Bam! You've built a world-class talent incubator. Okay, so if that's the winning formula, what happens when your geography gives you the exact opposite? Let's circle back to Canada, where there's this invisible cost that gets slapped on every single player, coach, and club in the country. The research gives it a name: the travel tax. Now, it's not a real tax the government collects, but it's a very real burden. It's the huge cost in money and time and in a player's actual development that comes from having to travel massive distances just to play a decent game. And this is what it actually looks like. For a top youth team in Ontario, a whopping 65% of their entire yearly budget can be eaten up by travel. Just think about that. Most of the money isn't going to better coaching or new equipment or better fields. It's going to airlines and gas stations. That's the travel tax right there. And this hits where it really hurts: the competition. A young player in Madrid might play 8 or 10 intense local derbies every single month, constantly sharpening their skills. They're accumulating football IQ. But a similar player in Toronto, they're lucky to get 2 or 3 games against faraway teams. They're not accumulating intelligence, they're accumulating air miles. It's a massive disadvantage that's literally built into the map. So what do? I mean, you can't exactly shrink the country. The proposal says you have to get smart. You have to deliberately engineer a football circuit in the one place that has all the right ingredients to make it work. And that place is the Greater Toronto Area. The GTA is this unique island of density in the ocean of Canadian geography. You've got over 18% of the entire country's population packed into this one relatively small spot. It's really the only logical place to even try to build a true high-density circuit. So this is the proposed model: a full football pyramid, almost completely self-contained within the GTA. And look at this. As you go down the tiers, the number of local clubs goes way up, and the travel time just plummets. A player in that fourth tier would never have to travel more than 45 minutes for a game. This is how you create that density and low-friction environment that's missing right now. And for a young player, this creates a clear, visible pathway to the top. You can see the whole ladder right in your own backyard. You start at a local amateur club, you get noticed by a semi-pro team, you earn that first pro contract, and then you make it to the top flight. And you can do it all without ever leaving the region. It makes the dream feel real and achievable. And what does this do? It directly attacks and completely neutralizes that travel tax. All of a sudden, a big rivalry game is a 30-minute bus ride, not a $500 flight. Scouts can bounce around and see a dozen top prospects in a single weekend. And crucially, all that money that was getting burned on gas and plane tickets can be reinvested into what actually makes players better: coaching, development, and making the game more affordable for everyone. So really, what this all comes down to is a massive shift in thinking for Canadian soccer. It's about moving from a strategy of just hoping for a lucky break and moving towards one of deliberate, strategic design. The talent factories in places like Buenos Aires or Madrid, they were basically happy geographic accidents. They just grew organically over 100 years of dense city life. Canada doesn't have that luxury. It has to take the other path, strategic design. It has to intentionally build the conditions for success that other countries just sort of inherited by chance. And let's be clear, this isn't just a nice idea. The data is overwhelming on this. Producing elite football players is a function of spatial efficiency. The cities that are basically optimized for high-level, low-travel competition are the ones that absolutely dominate the global talent market. It's almost a mathematical certainty. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final question. Instead of spreading money and resources thinly across a massive country, what if the key to unlocking Canada's potential on the world stage is actually to go small? To focus everything on one city, perfect the model, and prove that a golden generation can be built, not by chance, but by design.